Unfair selection for redundancy can result in unfair dismissal at a tribunal. Also, selection for redundancy on the grounds of disability, so in this case cancer, could also be deemed discriminatory. So there are certain things in place. If there's a genuine redundancy situation in the workplace, it has to follow a specific legal process to ensure it's fair, transparent, non-discriminatory. So there must be a consultation process where attempts are made to either avoid redundancy or mitigate the impact of redundancy by looking for alternatives to redundancy. Now, obviously, an organization going into redundancy will have thought of them, but they still have to explore them with the employees. If the this is called consultation, it's the purpose of the consultation process. So if the employee feels that the employer has already made their mind up and they're not really genuinely entering into consultation, so they're not considering alternatives by the language they're using or decisions they appear to have made, so it looks just like a box ticking exercise, that can be challenged. And there's a remedy, compensation, if you want to call it, for this, called a protective award. Now, it's a punitive measure, which means it's a punishment. So it's normally paid at the maximum award, which is 90 days pay per affected employee. So that's worth bearing in mind if the consultation doesn't feel genuine. If the redundancy affects less than 20 people, it's classed as an individual or non-collective, and the consultation would happen on a one-to-one basis between a manager and a member of staff individually. Now, all the law says in terms of how long it lasts is it needs to take place within good time. But if a redundancy affects between 20 and 99 staff, consultation is classed as collective and has to last for 30 days, unless you decide that you want to end it earlier. If the redundancy affects 100 or more, that consultation period has to last for 45 days. So there are legal timeframes. Now, during the consultation, if you feel you're being unfairly maneuvered towards redundancy or managed out, it's worth looking at the selection criteria, because the employee needs to demonstrate why you have been chosen, on what basis, and they need to be able to evidence it. Now, there are certain things to look out for. Is it fair? So if you have cancer and you meet the definition of a disability, as mentioned earlier, it's worth looking at, am I being measured on my attendance? My attendance is likely to have been affected by cancer, so it's likely to have been affected by disability. So to select me for redundancy based on that absence, you're basically selecting someone based on their disability, and that person's been put at a disadvantage because of a disability, so it could be discriminatory. So look at that. If your performance is being managed, it's normally managed over, not managed, measured. It's in terms of redundancy selection. So we want to select those staff who aren't performing. They'll look at your performance generally over a period of time. Again, was that period of time impacted by your disability? That could again be discriminatory. Now, a lot of employers will look at extending the periods over which they measure attendance and performance for people who are disabled during redundancy. So that's worth exploring. If you do get into this realm, again, legal advice, because it can be quite complex. And I suppose if you're feeling that you're being maneuvered out of an organization, not just in terms of redundancy, but we sort of touching on constructive dismissal territory here. So if you've got 2 years employment service, it has been known for people to resign and say, I can't possibly work here anymore. I'm being forced out, and claim constructive dismissal and or breach of contract. To do this, you need to demonstrate 3 things. And again, this is complex. Definitely seek legal advice, but you need to demonstrate a fundamental breach of your contract has taken place, and you need to be able to show that there is not a significant delay between these two. So you didn't wait too long. So the breach happened here, I resigned here, and I raised the complaint. You'd need to seek legal advice.